welcome to the hallway track. I'm Say Reed, and our man behind the camera is, as always, the genius Jason Tucker. We are here today at WordCamp LA. With the pretty awesome, I gotta say, Matt Cromwell right here. He is the, what are you? What are you? What are you? Tell me what you are.
I do whatever I want. I don't know. That's why nobody knows. I'm head of support and community outreach.
Which explains your presence here completely.
Yep.
Community outreach is what we are doing best here.
Yep, that's why we're here.
So tell me a little bit about your involvement with the WordPress community itself.
Yeah, I am been part of WordPress for a long time, but I am one of the lead admins of the AWP Advanced WordPress Facebook group. That's a big part of my presence in the WordPress community.
Is that like at 20,000 members now?
22,000.
22,003 and growing.
Yeah.
Daily. Too big. Okay, sorry.
Daily. And I run our local San Diego Advanced WordPress meetup as well.
Which is what that group actually initially came out of, your Advanced WordPress meetup from San Diego.
Yeah.
And now it's global.
Yeah. Now we have admins from all over the world. We have 30 plus admins from everywhere. And way too many people in that group.
A lot of people in that group. But because of that kind of large swath of people, you get a lot of differing opinions. Especially lately, there's been a lot of conversation about WordPress and the direction. Like, it's kind of philosophical almost. It's like philosophical discussions. Let's call them discussions about the philosophy behind different aspects of WordPress, or even about coding. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a separate WordPress a separate admin group where you talk about the group, because it requires that. It's very meta, exactly. So it requires
groups
that
to talk about groups.
Yeah. So how do you make those calls? Do you act unilaterally sometimes and then discuss it, or do you discuss things and then make choices? It seems complicated.
It's not. We try to make it not complicated, and so the way that a lot of the admins were chosen in the beginning, I didn't actually start the group. I was added relatively early, but Michael Bastos created the group, and his philosophy with choosing admins was really choosing people who have really, really good judgment of their own. And because he knew that he couldn't micromanage anybody, and even at that time when the group was relatively small, he needed to have people who he trusted innately to make good calls, so that the group could really function very fluidly. And even though we have over 22,000 people now, we still try to keep that same philosophy about the admins. We trust first, and then sometimes an admin will say, "Hey, I just did this action in the group," and sometimes we differ. We'll say, "Oh, I wouldn't have done it that way. Maybe we should change that," or we'll talk about it. But in general, the first rule is that we trust each other to have good judgment, and we try to communicate what we're doing with each other in our admin group. And sometimes we end up just talking about what is happening in the group as well, in general.
Some of the more interesting conversations?
Yeah, without necessarily any action at all. We're just saying, should we act, or isn't this interesting, or maybe we need to delete this whole thread right now. So the group is really all about just communicating with each other and knowing what's happening.
Because I think that group has become sort of a microcosm of the WordPress community, kind of unintentionally, and stemming from taking group photos at like WordCamps and things like that, connecting people from all over. So it's kind of taken on this life of its own, but really representing a cross-section of WordPress. So I think it's really interesting to watch that. Are there any things that have come out of that group that you know of, like collaborations or anything like that you guys have really noticed besides education?
Yeah, I think a couple of really obvious things are just that there's several different other Facebook groups that spawned from the Advanced WordPress Facebook group. The word advanced is kind of tricky.
Vague.
So vague,
hard to define.
Or maybe pointless, but So the intermediate Facebook group, intermediate WordPress Facebook group spun off of that. There's a plugin suggestions Facebook group that spun off of us because we wanted to push some of those subjects elsewhere, and we didn't want to just be like, not here, good luck, and push them out into the wild. Instead, we can refer people to those other groups, and they have their own admins. Some people are admins of both groups or multiple groups, but they have their own admins. They do their own thing. They have different rules, but it's a good way. It's a good kind of like family of WordPress Facebook groups. That's kind of the most like visible, obvious thing that spun out from the group. But the other one is just simply the way that it has literally elevated a lot of people's lives, and that to me is my own like personal testimony of the group. Is I feel like as I have grown in WordPress, it's been a lot because of my interaction in that Facebook group, and I've seen my own ability to understand WordPress better be a reflection of my participation in the group, and even my advancement in my WordPress career because of connections I made in that group. My very first kind of like professional job in WordPress was with plugins, and I met Adam Warner in the Facebook group and made all that connection there first until I got hired by him, and then flew out to Miami to meet him, and all of it.
To a WordCamp or just?
Yeah, to a WordCamp.
To a WordCamp,
yeah.
Of course. Of course it was to a WordCamp.
Yeah, to WordCamp Miami, and we met there and launched 2 plugins together at that WordCamp, all because of our connection in the Facebook group. And that's my testimony, but I know of lots of other people who have the same. Ahmad Awais is one of our admins, and he has he's doing amazing things out in Pakistan, and his career is definitely also taking off in great ways. There's another guy I give a shout out to a lot named Kevin Hoffman. He's doing really great stuff. He's not an admin, but he's doing really great contributions in the group, and I see him doing more and more stuff. He's really involved in WordPress core conversations right now, which I think is great. I love seeing everything that he's doing. There's lots of other examples. To me, that's the whole point. That's the whole point, and that's the whole real benefit of the group is helping everybody elevate each other, basically.
It's kind of basically the digital equivalent of an ongoing 24-hour-a-day WordCamp.
Yeah, or a meetup. Yeah, I mean, it's like 24/7.
Which you came out of, but it's really...
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we would be remiss to not talk to you about Give. So tell me a little bit about Give. You hear the name a lot, you see the beautiful logo. You guys have a great logo, very good logo. Great color, great shade of green for all your designers out there. But tell me about the product and how it came about.
Yeah. We launched Give about 1.5 years ago.
And sorry to interrupt, but that's WordPress, right?
Yes, WordPress is
no longer Foo Plugins.
Yeah, WordPress is the company I work for, and that I'm a partner of. And we launched Give about 1.5 years ago as another one of our products, alongside a suite of other products. But very, very quickly, Give became our flagship product. And we are really happy about that because Give is a lot of fun to work on. It's a donation plugin for those who don't know. It enables nonprofits and anybody doing personal fundraising to make it happen easily with WordPress.
Like their personal GoFundMe site, but as part of their install, their WordPress install.
On WordPress. I mean, and so just like WordPress allows you to own your own website and own your own data, Give allows you to own your own donations and not have to share that with a third-party platform at all. Which is exactly, I mean, third-party platforms are really great, they're really robust, and they're really useful, and they can help with exposure, but you're sharing all of your donation data with another service.
And a chunk of your change as well.
Most often, they're taking a portion of every single donation, or they're charging a very high amount per month in order to accelerate your costs. So we think that WordPress by itself is the best choice for nonprofits, and we try to be the best donation plugin for WordPress. So
in addition to, do you have to educate potential clients, nonprofits, on WordPress as well as Give if they come to you to talk to you about Give and you're like, oh yeah, and also WordPress is part of this. So they're like, oh, I want this for my site, but they're in, something else.
Yeah.
Squarespace.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely have had people come learn about us before they learn about WordPress. And we definitely go into a conversation if we're able to, either by email or face-to-face or live chat, by telling them the benefits that we see in choosing WordPress for their organization. And that does happen. And we love being kind of like ambassadors for WordPress and being able to say, you really should be choosing WordPress. Even if you don't want to use our plugin, like WordPress is the right choice. But most often they have a WordPress site that they have built and it's all along, and they keep wanting to do donations, and maybe they have a PayPal button and they just
PayPal donations.
Yeah, and it's this green or yellow, like, Web 2.0 thing, and they're not happy with it, of course, because it just doesn't fit with their whole design, and they want to do something better. And then we try to teach them about SSL, because a lot of them don't know about SSL, but it's really important, and very, very soon it's really going to be like de facto standard.
Especially for WordPress. This is actually a big announcement this week, came from Chrome, that they're going to be, or was it?
Yeah, Chrome.
It was Chrome, right? That they're going to be basically not, if you don't have a login, or maybe it was Google, I don't know. There was a bunch of announcements about security this week with Google, so that was fun. But basically, because of the admin login screen, it has to be SSL for every WordPress site.
If you're passing data over a form in any way, Chrome is, and you're not running on HTTPS, then they're going to say not secure. Basically, that your information,
that's what it was.
Your information can be
connected somehow.
Yeah, your information can be intercepted by a third party without you knowing it.
So what effect do you, not just on Give, but what impact do you think that'll have on the WordPress community as a whole?
Well, it's been happening already, but more and more people are just talking about the necessity of SSL. That's why we have things like Let's Encrypt, where people are like, we can't charge people $100 a year for something that really is necessary and basic to basic web security. So Let's Encrypt is a great initiative, and it's really pushing the envelope. Also, Cloudflare is offering SSL connections. If you're using Cloudflare for your CDN or for your domain management, basically, you can use that as a free SSL, more or less. But there are types of SSL, and that's where it does get complicated, and a lot more education is necessary for people. So, in general, the move has already been going there, but now it's getting more and more to the point at which if you have a contact form on your site, you need SSL. If you're going to have members subscribing to your newsletter, you're going to need SSL, just simply because you don't want somebody's information to get intercepted and they get hacked in one way or another, either through social hacking or any kind of hacking, because they subscribe to a form on your website. Then you're liable for their vulnerability, basically.
That could really, obviously that could impact anyone using forms, small businesses and whatnot, but obviously that would be a huge deal for nonprofits who are your target for Give. It would cripple them because the sanctity of that data is really one of the things that they are, a lot of nonprofits are, it's all thing. Like, I gave to you and you sold me out. It's like kind of an issue, so that's good. And so, are you doing education, or do you see that happening as a whole in WordPress? Have you noticed any of that, like more talks at WordCamps about SSL?
Yeah, no, there have been. There's actually, I just looked it up yesterday. There's a really good one that happened from WordCamp San Diego earlier this year. There was a good big SSL talk, and actually Joost de Valk is one of the admins of our AWP Facebook group, and he's the creator of Yoast SEO. And he just posted
WordPress SEO.
WordPress SEO. He posted a thread in our Facebook group saying, "Hey guys, I'm creating like a big resource for everything about SSL, and I'd love your input." So honestly, I'm really looking forward to that. What we have done is we have right now a section of our documentation called Resources, where we try to provide people with general WordPress resources, and one of them specifically is about converting your WordPress site from HTTP to HTTPS and how you can do that relatively easily.
There are some standard pitfalls. I've done some of those conversions, images, that type of stuff can be difficult for the end user.
Yes.
If they don't have help. Do you foresee SSL becoming something that's more like you just turn it on, or is maybe host-based, not as a sold certificate, but just like, hey, we'll just make you secure everybody? Do you foresee that happening, or do you think they're always going to try to exploit it for dollars? Or?
Well, there's a mix of things. WordPress core is working so that the famous 5-minute install is going to add a new feature, which is a big deal.
That is a big deal.
That hasn't happened in a long time, but like that they would basically be able to say, I want this site to be HTTPS. Of course, that doesn't really, now that benefits you a ton, but that's not going to do a whole lot if you don't already have an SSL certificate enabled. So it could create issues. They go, yes, of course I want HTTPS, but then they don't know that they don't have an SSL certificate. So there are things moving in that direction, but more and more, I think you're never going to get away from the fact that if you're running on HTTP now, there is a conversion process to get onto HTTPS. Like you mentioned, there's always going to be this issue with what's called insecure elements. You can just go into your settings and change your domain to HTTPS, and if you have an SSL certificate installed, it will start loading there. But then you're going to have all these insecure elements. Our article goes through how you can fix that with a couple plugins, and we try to make it as easy as possible. And we have had a lot of end users go through our document and be able to do it on their own, but not all of them. So it is a bit technical. So I think the quicker we get to the point at which the host level will say automatically you are on HTTPS, you have a free SSL certificate, and WordPress allows you to install it as HTTPS out of the box. The quicker we get there, the quicker this is all behind us, and we're all like, what in the world were we doing on HTTP ever?
Yeah, right? Yeah. So what do you think, a year, 2 years out, if you had to use your magic prediction powers?
I definitely
it's
don't
pretty
have
quick.
magic prediction powers.
Chrome and Google are they're like, they started talking about this a little bit last year. It's starting to get more widespread, and then this year they're like, all right, it's going to happen. So
I mean, I have almost like a tangent comment on that. It's like
tangent away.
Almost a tangent comment. Basically, I think it's really ironic how Google is deciding to use its heft and its power to push its agenda on what it believes is the best web practice. I happen to agree with that. Like, that is right. That is the best web practice. I mean, like, tons of people agree with it. Like, the majority of anybody who knows anything technical about the web agrees like that's best practice. But they decide that we're going to enforce this. We're going to start making it like if you are on HTTP, we're going to make it look bad for you. Whereas on the other spectrum, WordPress core specifically chooses intentionally to not use its heft to push PHP versions up. Like, they want to continually have this compatibility with PHP 5.2, which 5.2 is 9 years old now, I think.
Which is like 90 in web years.
Yeah. And it's not secure. It's not beneficial or helpful for a website to be running on PHP 5.2. It's not maintained anymore. Like, there's no reason. And WordPress could use its heft to say, look, minimum version for WordPress is at least, please, 5.4. 5.5 is even better. Like 5.6. Get it up there. But
what do you think the obstacle to that is? Just backwards compatibility, or do you think it's in order, for its swaths of users who don't really check in on their website or have subpar hosts? What do you think the objective of that resistance is?
A couple different folks, Matt Mullenweg included, have just said simply that that's not the role of software. But to be able to say to a host, you really need to start pushing this way.
So it's literally a philosophical difference between what Google's doing and how WordPress is doing it, which really makes sense in terms of their software philosophies. They're coming from those same
totally
places.
Different types of companies and different agendas for sure.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I look forward to learning more about that, probably from you guys, since that's a really core issue for your product. And I'm glad that Give is doing so well and giving so much, including, we got to do a little shout out because Jason used Give to crowdfund the camera, this fancy camera that we're using, which allows us to do all these shots. We don't have a microphone to hold. So it's pretty exciting, and it's a really great product, and we don't necessarily do a lot of endorsements. I certainly don't do a lot of endorsements.
I do lots of endorsements.
I do not. Yeah, Jason does a lot of endorsements. I don't, but Give is definitely a product, and WordPress in general. You guys are a great team of human beings, human beings, and also you have a great product which is really helping people, and I think that's very WordPress fitting, as it were. Yeah, so thank you. All right, bye, we'll be back. See ya.